to Man Enough. I'm Justin Baldoni.
I'm Liz Plank.
And I'm Jamie Heath, and I'm the only one on set. Hey, are you guys going to come to set? What's happening?
I think I'm a little far.
You're in New York, but...
It's a little cold. I don't think I can exit. But I would love to be there.
And how about you, Jay?
Well, I don't think that would be fair to Liz if I was in the studio.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
So I'm in Jamie's tiny house on my property. That's where I am.
You're live from the tiny house.
And I miss you guys here. What are we doing?
What are we doing today? We have a power couple on the show today.
Oh my gosh.
It is a power couple.
Liz Plank, tell us about the power couple. Who's on today?
Anna Malaika and her husband, Michael Tubbs. I thought I knew how amazing they were based on like 20 things that they've done. And then I read what all of the things that they've actually accomplished in so little time. They're so young. They've both written a book at the same time and like had a kid and a second kid. Anyway, I won't get too much into it because I want people to stick around. But they are both super, super accomplished and really thoughtful, sweet, kind people too, which makes it really unfair. They have to have one thing, and they're super beautiful. So I don't know.
But you know what? You know what I love about this episode is listen to this episode. You're going to be blown away by who they are, everything they have to say, but also you get to see their humanity in their marriage, and that's what I love about this so much. So we'll be right back with the power couple of the century. This is Man Enough.
This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. People don't always realize that physical symptoms like headaches, teeth grinding, and even digestive issues can be indicators of stress. And let's not forget about doom scrolling, sleeping too little, sleeping too much, undereating, and overeating. Now, running a business, supporting my loved ones, being mindful of how I care for myself, it's a tricky juggle. And I'm really grateful not to have to do it all alone. Thanks to my own relationship and therapy, I was able to identify my stress points, reflect on experiences that deeply affected me, and better navigate life with helpful tools and a fresh perspective, all thanks to my therapist. Stress shows up in all kinds of ways. And in a world that's telling you to do more, sleep less, and grind all the time, here's your reminder to take care of yourself. Do less, and maybe try some therapy. BetterHelp is online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist. You don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. Give it a try. See why over 2 million people have used BetterHelp Online Therapy. Anything you share is confidential. Send a message to your counselor anytime, and you'll get timely and thoughtful responses, plus you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions. Connect in a safe and private online environment. It's so convenient. The service is available for clients worldwide. Look, it's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It is professional counseling done securely online. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and the Man Enough podcast listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/manenough. That's BetterHelp.com/manenough.
Hello and welcome back to Man Enough. We have a power couple with us today, don't we, Liz and Jamie?
Yes, we do.
Anna Malaika and Michael Tubbs. What's up?
How are you?
Thanks for having us.
Oh my goodness, it's a pleasure. So good to see you.
We're so happy you're here. And Michael, it's good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
We realized we have a lot of mutual friends here. Definitely one center mutual friend between Liz and I and both of you. Jamie, you're left out. I'm sorry.
I know, apparently.
Liz, can you introduce the audience to our power couple?
Yes. So Anna Malaika is a New York Times bestselling author of a book that I gave to my mother this year for Mother's Day, actually. I'm a big, big fan. She's also an advocate and educator. Her book, The Three Mothers, How the Mothers of Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and James Baldwin Shaped a Nation. It celebrates Black motherhood by telling the story of the three women who raised and shaped some of America's most pivotal heroes. Michael currently serves as special advisor to California Governor Gavin Newsom for economic mobility and opportunity. And in 2016, he became the youngest and first Black mayor of his hometown, Stockton, California. And he was the subject of an HBO documentary, Stockton on My Mind. His memoir, The Deeper the Roots, that came out just last year, reveals the making of a visionary political leader and a blueprint for a more equitable country.
Love that.
Wow. Power couple.
Y'all can make anyone sound good. I was like, who's she talking about? People sound amazing.
Talking about you.
That's incredible. You both had a book come out at the same year.
Yeah.
I really hope both of you can find success one day.
Yeah, really. We're pulling for you.
Trying hard. But that same year, I also birthed our daughter.
Oh,
Well, that's
damn.
There's a lot going on.
What was that household looking like during that period of time?
We're a bit of a mess in the Tubbs household. Every day starts with our 2-year-old demanding to eat chocolate for breakfast or watch Encanto, and then we just struggle to try to make it on these phone calls in time.
We always start with one question. This is a question for both of you. When was the last time that you didn't feel enough?
I would say for me, when Nehemiah, our daughter, was born 5 months ago, I felt so much sadness that my son had to share me with his sibling. And it was my initial sort of, I'm not enough for both of them. I can't be here for both of them as much as they deserve me to be, and can't be here for my husband and his feelings. And so it's just this initial kind of postpartum experience of I don't have enough energy to give to everyone who requires energy from me.
Said beautifully.
It's a great answer.
Thank you.
This won't be as great. I just like micro moments. Like I can't figure out how to make one of our kids stop crying. I just feel like a bad parent, even if it's like kids cry. But when they start crying, I'm like, okay, what if I do this? What if I do this? And if everything I try doesn't work, I'm just like, oh well. I'm just not mom, so we're just gonna sit with tears for a little bit. I'm not enough. So usually in those moments, particularly with the little one, because the 2.5-year-old, he's my guy now because like mom has the baby, so it's like, all right, dad, I like you now. But the baby, I'm still trying to get a better handle on like, am I enough dad for you? So we'll see.
I feel that. I feel like you guys just summarized my marriage at least. My kids want sugar and want to watch Encanto, and my wife has said exactly what you just said, and I feel exactly the way you feel, Michael. So,
speaking of Encanto, Malaika, you had said Encanto. You didn't say Encanto. You said Encanto with a perfect accent. Which tell me why you say that so well, because what I see is that you have been raised all over.
Hablo español in Mexico. Yeah. So anyone who's listening who speaks Spanish, I lived in Mexico for 4 years, and it was a big part of my childhood. The fact that I traveled and lived in different places like Dubai, Estonia, Sweden, Mexico, Azerbaijan. Moved to the U.S. when I was a teenager. Both my parents were lawyers and wanted to prioritize travel over whatever position. So if a job opened up that they could figure out a way to make work, they'd say, okay, let's go to that place, let's move there. So they were professors or consultants at some point. Mike thinks that they were in the
clearly
CIA.
agents. Like,
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this. Really, lawyers.
I don't know if we should.
Okay.
Watch the podcast. The internet connection just goes out.
That's right. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
but it was an amazing opportunity and privilege to grow up that way, and definitely informed who I am and how much I love speaking to people from all walks of life and really bringing people together and celebrating our differences.
I want to talk about those differences, right? That the both of you are such, a unique power couple in the way that you both really tackle very multifaceted issues and complicated issues that intersect with a lot of different things. And I don't know, even in my relationships with people who were also doing kind of social justice works or human rights work, it's hard because some of the things that you're studying come up in your relationship, right? And some of the things that maybe your partners is championing publicly might not, they might be falling short privately. I'm just really curious how you navigate being so public in such a big way when it comes to these big controversial issues, not controversial, but complicated. And then how does that, affect your relationship?
I have such a long answer for that. Do you want to start?
Well, it's a podcast, so go for it.
I just feel like there's like so much context to even like get to my answer to it, because Mike and I have been together since I was 19 and he was 21. We met in undergrad at Stanford. And on our first date, I said, what are you going to do? Because he was a senior, I was a sophomore. I said, what are you going to do when you graduate? And he said very kind of nonchalantly, I'm going to run for city council of my city. And I said, cool. Okay. Great. That sounds awesome. And so I started kind of going to Stockton. Mike moved there after he graduated, moved back home. And I would go maybe every other week to kind of support the campaign. But I quickly started realizing that people in Stockton saw me differently than our fellow Stanford community who knew me and knew my career and knew what I was about, and that I had my own dreams and my own path. So I was put into this position of I am the partner of this rising political star, and that's it. And I am a young woman of color with this high-pitched voice, and people couldn't imagine that I, the girl that they were like, she's so beautiful, had a brain, or that I had things that I cared deeply about in my own passions and my own intellect. So for many years that was difficult. And I have a master's in gender studies. I have a PhD in sociology. So I study all of these things. I write constantly about the erasure of women, and especially Black women. So to experience that very personally was difficult at times, but I was also reminded that speaking up against that and kind of making my own claims and saying, no, do not put me in a box. Do not, I'm not just going to be here to smile and shake hands. I can also contribute to this work. And I'm not going to be erased, and I'm not going to be spoken to as if I also can't think for myself, was not only for me, but to fight against these systems that I was studying. So it just gave me more impetus to say, this is wrong. It's not okay. Not only is it hurtful, but it leads to some really awful, violent outcomes and very dangerous outcomes, not only for me, not only for all the other women who are being erased, but for our entire country. So, of course, everything that you've talked about in this podcast. Michael also has 2 documentaries that have been made about his life. So at the age of 19, I was sitting there, being asked if I wanted to be in this. And I'm like, I don't want my title to be Michael's girlfriend. I was 19 years old. So making those decisions very early, it's been a unique part of our journey to have so many eyes on us while we're navigating, even getting to know each other from the very beginning.
And how has that affected you, Michael, as a man, to have her fully show up as a woman in her full, self and actually contributing, right? I want you to tell me about the report that you did about women, but that her perspective actually helped you as a mayor and helped you as a leader.
No, absolutely. I think part of great preparation was just the way I was raised. Like, my family's incredibly matriarchal. It's like all women, and me, my little brother, and our son. But then in terms of governing, what was great, I remember our first year during the campaign, Anna would go to some events, and one time she pulled me aside and said, no one's talking about women at any of these like political events and debates you're having. And of course, I'm like, come on, we talk about women all the time. Come on, that's not true. And she said, no, seriously, think about it. And I was like, yo, we literally have never even said the word woman and talk about Stockton, Canada. That's a problem. Wow. And I was like, well, babe, like, you getting the PhD, like, can you help me? Like, I clearly don't know what to do. Like, I don't know what to say it. And while doing her PhD, she worked with a member of my team to create this report on the status of women of Stockton. And what was helpful about the report, because I'm a nerd, it gave clearer data to where the gaps were and really pointed to what we needed to do to really improve the community by focusing on women. So through that, we did a whole bunch of initiatives, and also helped sort of shape some of our language, even in the basic income program, because we realized that the vast majority of the recipients in the Stockton basic income pilot that everyone talks about 75% of those recipients were women. So when we're talking about the good spending choices made, when we're talking about the impact of mental health, when we're talking about the way people were able to show up as parents, we're really talking about majority women. And Anna was really pivotal in sort of showing what was there the whole time, but very latent because no one had done the work just to name it. Like, no, let's actually talk about issues of women in Stockton. And that may be a key to our community getting better.
Nice. That was a nice summary.
You're listening to the Man Enough podcast. We'll be right back. This episode is brought to you by Athletic Greens. So one thing that I know being on a keto diet is that I have often struggled with getting the necessary amount of greens into my diet. Sometimes I can be so focused on protein, I just don't get enough greens. And the amount of greens that I really need would be almost overwhelming. But we need it. You need it. I need it. We need it. So Athletic Greens makes it so easy to get all of the greens and nutrients I need. In just one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. It contains less than 1 gram of sugar with no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, which is so important because we are just inundated with chemicals without even realizing it. And the best part is that it actually tastes good. So whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, carb-free, whatever free, it's totally lifestyle friendly and such an important addition to your diet. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D, very important, and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/manenough. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/manenough to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, welcome back to the Man Enough podcast.
First of all, I'm just taking, if I'm thinking back when I was 26 years old, and thinking about what you were doing at 26 years old, to be that young, to be in a system where politically, my personal opinion is that politics are need to be rethinked, in general. And then to have a wife who is worldly in experience. I'm actually curious, my question is going to come to you, a Black woman, having perspectives on men and the relationship with men and women and masculinity. You might have some perspectives that are really helpful for us to learn about what has been different and what has been the same, what we all share across the world. Maybe some cultures that actually have it more right than another in terms of that relationship with masculinity.
Has anyone ever asked you that?
That's a great question.
That's a good question. All the questions are good, but that was a really good question.
It's a big question, though. Of course, there's so many layers to it, but I would say on certain things, definitely there's a lot of places that are doing a lot better than the US. And we see that. I do all of my work now on maternal health, but of course in the US, we're experiencing a maternal health crisis for a reason that really comes back to the oppression of women in our country and in our society for years and years and years, dating back to laws in place to keep women from having access to resources. And of course, that becomes worse and worse the further you are from being a white cisgender man. So for Black women, especially, there's this difference of how we're going to be treated and what's going to be available to us and if we're going to be respected and all of these things. I would say that there's places like Sweden where the maternal health crisis is not existent, but it's more of a homogenous society. So it's a little harder to compare what they're doing right versus what we're doing in the US, where we do have a lot more diversity. But I think we can apply that model in the US and think about it from a lens of equity. Why is it that we can't share those same resources across the board? Why don't we have universal parental leave? Why don't we have access to affordable childcare? Before this call, we were all joking about our kids getting into preschool. Why is that system so divided based off of your income, your socioeconomic status? There should be universal preschool that's quality for all of our children, no matter where they're from, what they look like, if their parents are famous celebrities or if they're politicians or if they're authors or whatever. So there's a lot of different things that I think we can take from other countries and apply to the uniqueness of the United States of America. But I think quite often people think, we can just quickly say, well, other societies that do this well are more homogenous than we are, and we use that as some kind of excuse, when in fact those differences that we have can be turned into strengths for our country, and we can achieve that while also celebrating how different we all are from one another. And I think when the U.S. can achieve that, then we really truly will be the best nation in the world.
It's contingent on that. I love that.
Real quick, I have two things to say. One is my wife's from Sweden. My family,
Really?
so our family lives in Sweden.
I didn't know that. I'm a dual citizen in Sweden.
You're kidding.
Really?
We're talking about getting citizenship for us as well. Jamie will be really happy that I moved to then an all-white country. He would love that. gives me enough shit living.
Let's be
where
clear.
I live now.
We joke, but no, I would not be happy about that.
So the first thing is that I completely agree, and what they're doing is really interesting, especially now with men, because there's paternal leave that's available.
Yeah,
we can talk about that later. The second thing I want to say is, run for office. I'm going to vote for you. That's all.
I appreciate that,
Michael. You're great.
Oh no! Listen, literally in my head, I was like, "That's a good little stump speech for some." You
got my vote. Anna Malaika's got my vote.
I'm gonna use it. That was good.
I will say though, for now, being an author, I much prefer than running for office. It is so. I mean, I remember very personally what it felt like to be under this lens where you've been voted for to represent an entire group of people, in Michael's case, 300,000 plus people, and he couldn't speak as freely as I have been able to. I mean, I had some restrictions as his partner in the sense of like, okay, I don't want him to get heat for this opinion. I'll try. But at the same time, I could put my work out there. I was publishing my articles. I was getting my books out there. And I wasn't having to make this kind of, I think, sacrifice in terms of having to tone down for him. And he's already very radical in terms of his policies, as we know, but he still felt like he had to hold back some of that. So for now, I love just being able to put my work out there, my opinions out there, speak freely.
Yeah.
Maybe down the line, though. I'll never say never, but just not right now.
All I'm saying is Michael will be a great VP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But we make it really hard for women to run. We make it hard for mothers to do anything. You write in a piece that you wrote on Mother's Day, that your mom would say, if a mother is treated well in her community, that community will do well. I think that a lot of the issues that are occurring right now in this country, the United States of America, is coming from the way that we treat mothers horribly, right? And Black mothers particularly. I mean, there's a long history, right, of Black women being expected to mother everybody else, but then not being trusted to mother their own children. Right. And so I'm curious if you can really speak to that. Like, first of all, how do we take care of Black mothers? How do we, correct the incredible gap in terms of maternity death? So, Black mothers are 4 to 6 times more likely to die in childbirth. The infant mortality is also staggering. And then what would America look like if Black mothers were taken care of?
Yeah. I mean, I often speak about dehumanization and how so many of the times when, as Black community members, we say we're being treated as less than human, people will say to us, "You're making that up. That's dramatic." But the reason I wanted to write a book about Black motherhood is that dehumanizing treatment is undeniable when you look at how Black mothers have been treated in the U.S., where we are the only group of people that by law were told that we were the givers of non-life, the givers of property, that our children were not our own, but that were somebody else's property. That is the epitome of dehumanization. But Black mothers have continued to create life even when it was denied to them, not only through birthing their children, but through their creativity, through their art, through their activism. And so in studying that, we can see that Black women have never accepted the circumstance as it was or as it currently is because we can't. That would mean that we're denying our own existence. So we've always pushed this country forward to seeing the possibilities of our vision, the way we see that we should be treated, the way we see that our children should be treated with the same respect and dignity that everybody deserves. And so when you go back through these moments in history and you really can kind of point out how Black mothers and Black women are pushing the country forward into the vision that they see and the possibility that they have for our future as a nation, it's really powerful and it actually can bring you so much hope. And so when it comes to, okay, what does the world look like where Black women are seen in their full complexity and power and are not only admired for that, because quite often people say, yeah, we know Black women are strong, but they don't turn that admiration into action. So that needs to be the next step where we, can say, look at what Black women have done. This is incredible, even though we've been denying their existence and treating them as less than human. How about we elect Black women? How about we listen to what Black women say? How about we trust them and hear them and believe them? And think about the revolution that can happen even beyond everything they've already done that's revolutionary, when we're actually on their side and listening, and when we can take even bias out of every single system that a Black woman faces in her life. So much of what we're talking about with maternal health, with all these other awful things that are happening to Black women, comes back to that bias. And specifically with maternal health, it's the fact that the system itself was built by experimenting on the bodies of Black women. The American gynecological system was perfected by experimenting on Black women who were enslaved.
Can you give specific examples of that for people who this is completely new to them, who've never heard about this?
Absolutely. I mean, even C-sections were perfected by waiting until a Black woman was ready to give birth to her child and cutting into her as she was laboring without anesthesia. They were treated as less than animals simply to perfect these kind of procedures. And beyond that, these are white men who are saying, we want to take control of the birthing experience. So it's not only a terrible thing for Black women, it's also going to result in male doctors telling women more generally, we know better than you do how to birth a child.
And I've heard, and tell me if this is if you agree or it's an exaggeration, but doctors to Black women are what police officers are to Black men. And again, not to say that Black women don't get shot by the police, but that doctors can be extremely a lethal force in this country because Black women's pain is just not taken seriously, and then it leads to a lot of complications. Can you talk about that too?
Yeah, that Black women's pain is either not taken seriously, or there's this assumption that Black women can withhold more pain than other people, as if we are either less than human or somehow superhuman rather than human beings. And so even with my book, I was trying to just basically say a very simple statement that Black women are humans. And at every single point in our history in the United States, someone has tried to take that from us, whether it's by law, whether it's through these tropes like the Jezebel trope or the mammy trope or the matriarch trope or the strong Black woman trope or the welfare queen, over and over and over again. But what I'm even more interested in is exposing the ways in which Black women have pushed against that, have said, absolutely not. Here is how you need to see us. And this is how you need to see our children. And in turn, how you should see everyone, every human being. So that really holds the key, I believe, to our future. Even a moment like Stacey Abrams and what she's able to do in Georgia during the last election. If you really pay attention to Black women's stories, this is what we've been doing for centuries. But there's a reason that those stories have been hidden, have been erased, have been swept under the rug. Hidden figures, for instance. It wasn't a mistake that it's not like somebody said, oops, we forgot to tell you that Black women were the brains behind NASA all along. No, that's intentional. That's because it doesn't fit our notion of who the heroes of our country are. But in reality, we need to find more and more of those stories and celebrate them and then say, okay, these have been our leaders. Let's vote for them. Let's support them. And let's see what happens when we do.
Michael, that's your wife right there.
I just bought the domain name for her presidency run in 8 years. I'm just saying.
You're listening to the Man Enough Podcast. We'll be right back. All right. Welcome back to the Man Enough Podcast. I do have a question. Michael, you as a man, also you're a Black man. I can't separate the two. I think, every time we talk about something, I always bring up something that relates to that because I can't just step out of that. And even when we talk about patriarchy, it's different for Black men. You started saying that you were raised in a system that was all run by women. And, and so that shapes and frames you very differently. In fact, I have a friend that the other day got real upset. I made the reference patriarchy. He's a black friend of mine. He says, I don't want to hear the word patriarchy. From now on, can you say white patriarchy? Because patriarchy does not apply to us. And he got really heated. So let's call it white patriarchy is what he says. Well, I'm like, okay, well, let's break this down for a little later. What I'm getting to now is that what is your experience? How do you feel as being a man? How patriarchy and how masculinity affects you differently than maybe another? And also being married to a woman that's a strong woman and vocal, and how that then makes you feel.
I remember in college reading Bell Hooks, and one of the things she said, rest in peace, that really stuck with me was that sort of, I think it was Rock My Soul, I think was the book. And she was talking about how the issue with patriarchy for Black men is that the ideal of patriarchy is to be a white man. And you will never be that. So you act out that inability, that feeling of not enough, and being violent. So that's why you have high rates of domestic abuse among Black men in terms of abuse towards Black women and violence against Black women, et cetera, et cetera. And that really stuck with me. It's like that the issue is not just patriarchy, but it's the intersection of patriarchy, or how patriarchy in our society reinforces this idea of white supremacy and creates a hierarchy of human value in terms of who's important, who's enough, who's valuable, who can lead, et cetera. And I think sort of as a Black man, it's a different sort of intersectionality because you have privilege just from being a man in a society that values strength and aggression, et cetera, et cetera. But you also have like terrible outcomes on everything, from education to wealth to life expectancy to like everything but professional sports contracts, essentially, right? Yeah, incarceration rates, et cetera. So I think what I appreciate about Anna's work is that she is someone who has a PhD in this. So it's not like talking to someone at the barbershop or talking and listening to someone on a Sunday sermon. It's someone who, regardless of our relationship, is actually an expert on this stuff. So I can ask her dumb questions like, hey, what do you think about that? Like, I see it this way. Like, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But to help me understand why this is wrong. Or just hearing her talk to some of our other friends who say crazy things at dinner and seeing how she interact. So I think for me, it's a value add. I think it goes back to what she said earlier. Before she's like my wife or the mother to our kids, she's a human. Like, so she's a human first. I think I just love that to be partnered with a human who is so knowledgeable about so many things, but also so passionate about how do we create a world where everyone's humanity is valued, where everyone's humanity is elevated, and when everyone is given essentially what they need to survive. So and Anna will tell you, I'm crazy. I don't know if I could be with another human who wasn't like pushing and like spar, because I think that's how you also get sharper. And I know I've particularly in like policy stuff and when we're doing stuff with beginning, like I try to be, when there's always room to grow. Because even with being raised by a woman, because we're in a society where sort of that stuff is still socialized, whether you're a man or a woman. Like, it's not just men that perpetuates patriarchy. I have to unlearn some of the stuff they taught me in terms of what they thought it meant to be a man, particularly around like emotions, because they're like not emotive, especially my mom. She doesn't emote that way. So she thinks, she always say, I talk about this in the book, like, don't let them see you cry. Like, she was always big on like being strong, being stoic. You can do everything. Nothing bothers you. No one needs to know anything's bothering you. And I think being with someone like Anna has helped me unlearn that, even though that may have been helpful to like rise from where I came from in Stockton. But now that I'm an adult with a family, that's time to learn some of those harmful things that weren't taught to me by men, that were taught to me by the amazing women who raised me.
Tell us about a time where you were challenged by her and you were like, you didn't like it. You're like, ugh, like this is annoying or this is hard or, I don't want to face this.
No, I'm laughing because like,
which one do I pick?
I don't like being told what to do either. I don't like being feel like I'm not enough. So when someone tells me I'm doing something wrong, my first impulse is like,
you feel criticized.
I'm not good. I'm messed up. Like, why did I mess it up? I don't want to mess up. And then so let me think. What?
I have examples.
Yes, she does. Oh, our wives have the examples, don't they?
Documented.
I mean, sometimes they're smaller and sometimes they're larger things. But, when you study these things, that you can't really like turn that part of you off. So you always are like catching the small moments. But I would say, especially as we become parents, I really believe that the family is the first society that people are exposed to, you know? So what you embody in that family is what we're teaching our kids, is how men should be treated or women should be treated or whoever should be treated outside of our home. And so, for instance, Mike gets up every morning with our son, Malachi, our 2-year-old, because he wakes up at like 5 in the morning, and I'm not trying to do that. So Mike gets up with him, and I think for a while he was sort of like, I get up with him every morning, and I'm like, listen, let's stop right here. I'm not going to give you a gold star for being a father and parenting with me. You're not going to get that from me. I was pregnant for 40 weeks with this child. I was in labor for 24 hours. So I think at the very least, you can get up with our son without making a big to-do about it. And I want you to know that that is me respecting you as a parent. That's actually me validating you as a parent, because I don't have a low standard for you. I have the same standard for you that I have for myself. So you can meet that.
But that's not
here and be like, good job, Dad, for being.
But that's not no. But I think you were saying, Liz, and that's not true. But you were saying, you're like, when sometimes she told me something, and I was like, I ain't trying to hear that. I think it's been so. We have this amazing counselor. Her name's Alana, and she's like amazing. Like, I like going to her on Friday. She has created a really good space for us, and I think like Anna. Like, everyone's emotional, but Anna's like, she's very emotional, and I'm becoming more emotional. So I think for a lot of our relationship, she's been trying to get me to talk about how I feel versus like I'm annoyed or I'm like, how do you feel? I'm
what's underneath that?
Yeah. So I think the past couple of months have been really helpful, where Alana has taught me other words other than annoyed, or that I think what she said last week, which was so powerful for me. She was like, you deserve to have wants too. Like, if you don't have to just be upset. You can turn to your wife and say, you know what, this is bothering me. Or, you know what, I need this. Or, you know what, I would really appreciate that. Yeah. And I think Anna had been trying to do that, but her PhD's in gender studies, not in therapy. So the therapist PhD is the one that got me like locked in. But she had been trying to be like, no, you could tell me how you feel beyond being annoyed or beyond being short. Like, you can actually have a conversation.
Yeah, well, a lot of men told me that they're like, I only know if I was sad or angry. Those were the only 2 emotions I knew. And like, actually being told there's like all kinds of different emotions in between, you know, what was like a big thing. And again, if you grow up being told not to feel things, right, to suppress, you don't have that emotional, you know, knowledge and of yourself. Like, what is this feeling? Like, what am I?
It's so sad. She had to give me a chart. She emailed me a chart with like all these different words.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
I appreciate it. I was like, thank you. I need it. Okay, that's what I'm feeling right there.
That's great.
I want to ask a question based on Anna Malaika, what you just had said, which and allow me to poke at one thing and see how you feel. I'd love a response.
Sure, okay, let's see.
Because I struggle with something that has to do. So you had said, you know, he gets up in the morning, great, and you're not going to give him a cookie for it. I'm not going to give you a gold star, I think.
No.
Which I agree with this. And at the same time, there's something interesting about this. As a father of 4, I've been married 3 times, so obviously I've not done well at being the best representation of a husband.
But this one's it. This one's it, guys.
And hopefully, you know, well, yeah, I've been married 8 years now. We've been together 10. We have, you know, so I'm learned a few things, but implementing them is different than learning, right? You actually got to take action.
Yeah.
I have this feeling as raising children. You know, my son, who's 19 now, he does a lot of things that he's supposed to do, like be kind to someone. But every time he's kind to someone, I acknowledge it. I say, oh man, I love it seeing you, how kind you are to people, how you are helpful to this. It's not that and I'll do the same thing with my daughters or with my wife when she does something that's just traditionally just traditionally as being a human. You're so good at that, or thank you so much for doing that, or I love that about you. And then, so I hear the point of like, so a man gets up, or your husband, and we say things like, I'm not going to give you a gold star, but why also can't it be, I love that you do that. I love that you do this for the family. And also, because oftentimes men are told that's not masculine or that's a woman's job, I love that you challenge that notion and that you work against that grain. So acknowledging where we excel at the same time while not giving the gold star.
I think that's a difference between gratitude and celebration, right? So I'm very big on gratitude in my family, and it's actually how my family often showed our love. So my mom would always say, like, if you didn't thank her for something and acknowledge that she was doing and like putting her energy towards something that she wasn't obligated to, like just because she was our mom didn't mean we had to just kind of like, she drove me to ballet practice, for instance, and I got out without saying thank you, she'd be like, I guess I'm not taking you tomorrow.
Same. Oh my God.
Same. On, like, thank you for doing that. And I appreciate that. Like I say to him all the time, I appreciate that you wake up. Like I love sleeping in. I appreciate that, but if it ever turns into a moment where it's kind of like, I am going above, the level of what fathers like do, that's when I'm like, I need you to almost see yourself higher than that, because unfortunately in our society we've made it so that it seems like a really big deal when dads parent.
The bar is low.
And it shouldn't be that way. And I feel like we're doing a disservice to dads when we sit there and we're like, yes, like, thank you so much, versus being like a very simple, what he might do for me, thank you for that. And I say in the morning, thank you. But it doesn't need to be beyond that. So an example of this is when I was giving my TED Talk actually recently. We're at the TED conference and Nehemiah is only 3 months at this point. So I'm like, Mike, I need you to come with me to the conference. I need the kids to be close to me. I don't want to be there because I'm not gonna be able to focus if I'm also like needing to pump and all of these other things that come up when you have a 3-month-old at home. And so he said, yep, okay, I'll be there with you. I'll be in the room with the kids. My mom will come down. We'll like be with the kids together. And he would bring her to me when she needed to nurse, and I'd go to the green room and, because I'm still trying to enjoy the conference. And so many, and this is not, again, Mike made a good point earlier. It's not only men that do this. People do this generally. So many women walked up to me at that conference and said, your husband is such an amazing father. He was sitting there holding his daughter. I said, I'm sorry. I was like, we're applauding him because he was holding his daughter? What is going on? Or anytime if like I leave the house, if I come back and I'm like, oh man, Mike, like the house is a mess, and so many people have told me, Anna, so long as you get back and the kids are alive, he's done his job. Except when he gets back and I have a meal cooked for the kids and the house is still clean and the kids are dressed, like our standards should not be this different.
So is the issue then based around, because there's inequity in that, does it then, the pendulum, does it swing too much because of that inequity, that when someone is praised like he was, the spirit in and of itself, can that be celebrated in something? Do we want to live in a world where when someone does say, oh my God, your husband was so amazing, he did this, even if it's the basics, that is still something worth being celebrated in any person that does that, just equally like it should be if it's a woman. But because it's not.
Yeah. That's what I feel this so deeply that, and actually this is what my TED Talk is about, so thank you for the segue, is that when women do things, we don't celebrate these acts. We don't center them. We don't think about them as these intentional decisions that require thought and require sacrifice, all the many acts of parenting. But if mothers do it, we take it for granted. We erase that contribution. We don't talk about it in our retelling of history. Any, famous person, for instance, quite often we might celebrate the contribution of the father, but we don't think at all about what the mom did day in and day out, even when there's very clear connections beyond them being their first caretaker, their first leader, their first teacher. And the 3 women that I study, for instance, what they did in terms of their activism, Alberta King being somebody who participated in marches and in boycotts, we should have known that about her. But no one celebrated this because there is an erasure of the contributions of mothers. So I 100% agree with that. If someone came up to me and said, wow, your husband is such a great father, he held his daughter, and you are killing it as a mom, you took a break from this conference to go and make sure you could nurse her, I'd be cool with that, Jamie. I'm all about that.
And it's not just that mothers are invisibilized. Mothers become like the sort of they become the thing that we blame, right? For any societal ills, right? That like, oh, she's a bad mother. And coming back to your example of welfare queens, which, you can go more into detail for people who are not familiar, but, this was a stereotype that was, created, by in the 80s, this idea that Black women were just taking social welfare and then, using it, I don't know, not to take care of their kids, and that they were bad mothers. So it's, and there's a motherhood tax, right? Like, this isn't just us talking about not feeling like we're, mothers not feeling like they're seen, or mothers feeling like they're being blamed for everything. But like, when men have children, there's a fatherhood bonus, particularly white men. They get more money, and women get less money. The less liked employees are mothers, right? And then it's unmarried women, then it's unmarried men, or men who don't have kids, and then it's men who have kids, it's fathers, right? So this praise, this over glorification, right, of fathers doing the bare minimum has real financial consequences for women, and society at large. Sorry, I get really heated, even though I'm not a mom. I have a mom, we all have a mom, which is the weirdest part about it. Because you would think, it's literally what we all have, but then our society just puts them at the bottom, of the care hierarchy. And it's just baffling.
I'm happy we're talking about it and trying to unpack it. What not concerns me, but what I'm sensitive to also is that then we have white men who, let's say, are at the top of the food chain. And it comes to a point where I have some friends that are white, that if they get any acknowledgement or praise for anything they do, it's like we can't acknowledge them because we have so many people way lower on the totem pole in terms of, equality that are not acknowledged for their contribution to society. So that when you have a white man who does something, it's like, well, I'm not going to praise you or give you kudos for.
Yeah, what white guy doesn't get praise? I don't know. I'm like,
no. White guy, no, they do get it. They do get it.
Okay.
I'm not saying they don't. I'm saying that the pendulum gets, because we want equality, that then doesn't mean, and I'm speaking on behalf, thinking of people that listen to us, a lot of white men that listen. When I think about a Justin, who when I see stands up for racial equality, who may have my back. Now, he's supposed to just do that as a human. He should not be praised for standing up for his friend, for a Black man who's being dismissed. And yet, a lot of white men don't. So I also want him to see and be acknowledged for what he does do. And so it's almost like I have this conversation a lot with different aspects, that we don't dumb down love and praise for us doing things because another group is not acknowledged for it's like privilege. I don't want a white person to not have privilege. I just want it too. Give it to me too. It's not that I'm saying you shouldn't have it. You should be able to be free walking down the street. You should be able to go to the restaurant. You shouldn't have to look over your back. You should be able to make money. All these things, good for you. But I deserve the right to. And because I don't have that, doesn't mean that you shouldn't still strive for it. Because women are not acknowledged, and they should be, because in my opinion, I have a stronger, deeper relationship with women because in my experience, I was raised with them and they have expressed and shown me their brilliance more than I have seen men in my life. So I want that. I also don't want men to feel to feel embarrassed or to feel that they're wrong for also wanting to be acknowledged. And this is where this discussion sometimes gets tricky.
I just think we have to be mindful to not create, a Pavlov's dog. So it's not about then doing it for the reward, right? It's
Of
doing
course.
it for, and I think that's where, going back to Anna Malaika's point, is the difference between gratitude and celebration. I think that's because, as an example,
very good.
Jamie, you and I can pick one of 100 situations where something's happened in our friendship and maybe I have said something or I didn't, right? But in the moments you didn't celebrate me, you thanked me, right? And
Sure.
But I didn't do it for that. And I think that's the point, is when, and my wife's experienced this too, Anna Malaika, that because I'm public and very an outspoken feminist. It's just everywhere she goes, it's your husband, and she comes home and she's like, what the fuck? Do they see what I'm doing? And then this is why, like, and this is what started a lot of this Man Enough work, is she would be the one reminding me of what's actually happening. She was the one that first told me about our erasure of moms. And she's like, you get to go out and win in this game of the patriarchy, and like you get awards and fucking trophies and like things. And who's awarding us? Who gives a shit what I'm doing? Which is why so many moms are depressed.
Yeah.
So there's no support system. We don't even live in communities anymore, right? So it's like we're all stuck in our houses, and it breaks my heart. So as you're talking, I just keep hearing all the times my wife's been in that same situation, and we've had these conversations about it, which is why then when you get to the point where, like, you know, she goes away for 4 or 5 days and I'm with the kids, like there's a part of me that's like, how the fuck do women do this by themselves with no support? Like, and so I get it all. I think that gratitude is a key. I don't think we need the cookies to be dangled in front of us. And I know that's what you're saying too, but I do understand that there's a lot of people, I think, that there's a lot of men that feel that that in order to have equality, they need to have stuff taken away from them. Right. And as we know, like, that's just not how not how it works. That's just not how it works.
Yeah.
I love this
It's a big one.
conversation.
I love it. We're going to have more conversations with you.
Hey, I got a question. I got a question. I got a quick question. Because my wife and I were just talking about this, and I was talking about this with a group of other female entrepreneurs specifically, and I'm really curious your thought on it. Because we know the motherhood tax. We know that in terms of, we know men are rewarded and promoted for having children, and women are punished in the workplace. A thought I had as you guys were talking was, obviously we know that moms have more responsibility generally at home than fathers do.
Yeah.
Have there been any studies done, or can that be tied back to moms then feel unreliable in the workplace because they're always, something happens at school, mom's got to go. Where are the dads? Does it come back to, even if a mother and a father are working, father's not leaving home, mother is to go pick up the kid, or the emergency happens, mom's got to be there, or she's late because she had to wait. Like, I'm just wondering if that part of the cycle has been studied or not.
It's so interesting you said that, because I recently submitted my proposal for my next book, and it's all about this, because this kept coming up in my conversations around my first book, where someone would be like, why were these mothers erased? Why didn't we know these stories? And I'd be like, in my head, man, I don't think this person knows that, like, patriarchy exists, that, you know, white supremacy exists, that this has been written into law. Like, the things that we are seeing play out right now go back to histories of very intentional, this is how we're going to put women in a box. This is how we're going to keep women from being able to access this. So the gender pay gap, it doesn't just come out of nowhere and like randomly happen. It's that we have evidence of these moments. And so this is going to be exclusive announcement. My next book is what I'm focusing on. However, to go to that in particular, I was reminded of actually Alberta King, MLK Jr.'s mother. And just to give a tangible, I love giving stories for us to hold on to the moment. When she met her husband, who was going to be her husband, she'd already achieved her bachelor's degree and a teaching certificate. She wanted to become a teacher. This was her life passion. Her husband at the time didn't have the same access to privilege of an education that she did. So he's only a few years older than her, but he is considered illiterate when they meet each other. So she helps him get into Morehouse. All the men in her family go to Morehouse and all the women go to Spelman. And she tutors him through his college education. She helps him become this powerful orator that he is. And he is inspiring in his story also. Beautiful story for us to study. However, at the time, there was a law in place that was called a marriage bar. And basically it said that married women were not allowed to work in certain industries. And it was written specifically with this notion in mind that women could not focus if they were married, if they had children. So therefore, if they made the choice to start a family, they were by law prohibited from working. So Alberta King, in choosing to start a family with Reverend Martin Luther King Sr., is forced to give up her career despite the fact that she has a bachelor's degree and a teaching certificate, and this has been her journey all along. So that is an example of a law that has made it that for the mom to be in these heteronormative relationships, obviously a lot of this conversation is heteronormative, to be the default parent. And it was written this way. So it's not even just like by feelings or that like we just feel this has to happen, or this mom guilt comes up in us when I'm the one that's going to have to put my meeting aside or cancel something if something comes up with our children. This is how it was written. And so by not studying this and not having a document that tells us where all of these moments came from, it's forcing women to feel like, am I the only one feeling this way? I'm tired. I can't do that. Why did this all of a sudden happen where we decided together we were having children, and now no matter what, it's going to be me if something happens? It's not just you, for any moms who are listening. It's actually the result of a system of patriarchy, and a very tangible one, actually, which I hope to make more tangible for listeners.
Oh, I can't wait for Emily to meet you. I can't wait. Can't wait for this. We all got to have dinner.
I'm so excited. Yeah,
oh my God.
I love all her stuff. I have the cocoon and
this is going to be her favorite episode. I can't wait for her to listen to this episode. I was like, babe, did you listen? And she's obviously got her own career and all other things, but she's going to listen to this
She's
one.
like, I don't have time to do that, man.
She's like, I don't have time to listen to you. I'm married to you.
Yeah, I listen to you all the time.
I won't have to listen to the episode because I'm going to be living right down the street from this, so we'll be hanging out, and the episode will be happening every day.
What were you saying?
I'm saying, I think there was an article in the New York Times recently, a couple months ago, about this pandemic really being a pandemic of women, and how if you look at the employment numbers and everything, like the group that's going to be left behind, if there's not like a targeted policy conversation about what to change, are women. Because even when women make more than their partners, they're more likely to leave the workforce to stay at home to make sure kids can do Zoom school,
exactly.
et cetera. So I think what's exciting about Anna's book coming out, but also the moment that we're in now, is that as we recover from COVID-19, if there's not an intentional focus on women and women employment, we'll continue to see sort of reverberate economic impacts for many, many years. And people will ask, well, like, what's happening? It's going to be like we have to disaggregate the data and look at women and look at Black women and Latina women and see what's actually happening and are we really recovering? And all the data thus far suggests we're not. And without that really specific policy lens, we'll continue to have a circular conversation about the economy.
I want to touch on that because you instituted basically UBI, right? Like a universal basic income. Can you tell us what that is? Does it help women in any kind of specific way, and particularly women of color? And what kind of policies would benefit women at this point? Because to your point, it's been disastrous for women, particularly women of color. We've reversed basically the progress that we've made over the last 50 years.
So basic income is basically what we've seen the past couple of years. So the stimulus checks, the child tax credit, essentially it's no strings attached cash payments to people from the government. So in Stockton, we were experimenting with this 5 years ago. 2017 is when we announced. So before Andrew Yang, before the pandemic, et cetera, with the idea being that economic insecurity is a driving force for a lot of problems we see. And that's also acutely felt by women in Stockton, because in Stockton, I think, was it 35% of all households were women?
It was 30%, but no, 30 with children under the age of 18 were led by single mothers.
So like a third of our households were led by mothers. And then a high number of our households in poverty were led by women because of gender pay gaps, et cetera, et cetera. So in Stockton, we gave $500 a month for 2 years to a group of 125 families. 75% of those families end up being women who were chosen by their families to be the ones to make the decision as to what to do with the money. And what we found was that people spent money the way you and I spent money, that people's mental health increased, that people talked about they felt like they could breathe. They felt more present as partners, as parents. They're more likely to actually find jobs and not stop working, but actually get better jobs because they could take time off or they could like add more ownership of their time, et cetera. And what we've seen since then is that, well, I was reading something the other day actually about how President Nixon almost instituted a basic income in the 60s. And what happened was there was a study done in Seattle that was doing a cash payment, and the divorce rates rose. And that was because economic security gave women the financial stability to leave abusive relationships, to leave relationships where they don't have to be dependent on someone being the breadwinner, where they had a little more financial independence. So I think that's what's so powerful about this idea of a guaranteed income. It's really about elevating human dignity, but it's also about giving people agency. Because I tell people all the time that when you have a little bit of money, you have ownership over your time. You can decide to do a podcast for 2 hours. You can decide to go hang out with you just have you're not in a rat race. And I think that's what's so powerful about the moment we're in now. So a guaranteed income is great for everyone. And I'm not a woman, but I can only imagine for women, particularly those in abusive relationships or those who are economically insecure or those who are mom and breadwinner and mom, dad, and breadwinner, like the women who raised me were, having a little bit of health would actually empower them to do more and do all the things that is important for empowering our communities. And to segue to the second half of your question, Justin, that's why we're launching a whole effort called End Poverty in California, which is really focused on in the richest state in the world. I mean, the richest state in the world, fifth largest GDP of everyone. The amount of poverty we have here is unacceptable.
And Poverty in California, epic, best name ever. Can you tell us how that connects to policy that also helps women?
If you disaggregate the data, you find that a lot of people who are poor in California are children, and those children are attached to parents, and oftentimes those parents are single mothers who are working jobs that don't pay enough to pay for California rents, who can't afford childcare. So in terms of policies, things like baby bonds, so that every child who's born is given something so that when they turn 18, they have a little bit of financial security to start their lives. Things like guaranteed income, things like Anna mentioned earlier, universal childcare, universal preschool, worker protections, paid family leave. The fact that so many people don't have paid sick leave in the middle of a pandemic is actually kind of wild. So paid sick leave, et cetera.
How do we remain optimistic knowing how much has to happen?
People ask me that all the time when I was still married, and I would tell them that nihilism or hopelessness is a luxury. Like if you're actually experiencing the issues at a visceral level, where it's like you need hope to survive. You need hope to wake up the next day. You need hope to go work the job you hate, to put food on the table and hopefully be able to afford rent. And that's what keeps me hopeful, because I could be pessimistic and say, you know what, it doesn't matter, and our bills will still be paid, our kids will still be in school, so I think for me it's this idea that hopelessness is a luxury, but also, and I mean, the women that Anna studied are the best examples of this, that people had it much more difficult and still had hope and still saw what the future could be and realized that they had some agency, that they can change the whole world themselves, but they can do their small part in their individual works, in the family they raise, etc. So those are the two things that keep me sort of going.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, I often think it can feel very overwhelming that there's so much to fix in the world, and that there always will be. And you can say there's too much, and what am I going to do about that as an individual? But I think one thing you can hold on to is what's something that you can contribute to this larger project of humanity that we're trying to work at together. And if you can find that thing, or maybe multiple things, but your way of contributing to that, kind of day in and day out, it can feel at least more approachable, and that you're not alone in tackling that. And for me, for instance, I love to write, and I always knew I could write. And I wanted to take things that I could learn in the academy and turn those into tools that would welcome more people into conversation around race, gender, and equity in a way that was approachable, in a way where they felt human connection and were driven by narrative and emotion. And I felt like I had a unique talent at that, and bringing these audiences from wherever together because that was my life. I lived in so many different places that I can communicate with people across whatever table. That is a skill that I have uniquely. And that's what I want to contribute to this. So I think if we can all think about our own personal experiences, even the struggles we might have gone through, what is it that we're uniquely positioned to do? And with that, we have a lot of talent. We have a lot of force to really accomplish some of these goals. And it keeps us going. So on top of like what Mike already said, I often will say that Black women give me a lot of hope and like what we've been able to accomplish and what we will continue to fight for no matter the circumstance. But I do think that it applies to everyone. What is something that we can do? What are we uniquely positioned to do to make things better for more of us?
And how can we support you for people who are listening?
These are good questions. Buying the book, of course, is very supportive. Listening to the TED Talk and getting more people to listen to why it's important to value mothers in first hour stories and how I think policy will follow that if we start to tell more accurate stories around motherhood and books and TV shows and movies, even in our one-to-one conversations. Yeah, I'll leave it at those two.
Great.
I think for folks in California, really pushing all our elected leaders to actually ponder the question, do we want to end poverty in California? And if so, this is what we do. And if not, why not? Like, why do we want poverty?
Oh, man.
Michael, I appreciate you. You have demonstrated something that I need demonstration of all the time, which is you have, for the most part, your wife has spoken more than you. And I can be in a room with my wife and not do the same. I try to make space, but I talk a lot. And it's sweet to see. That you are comfortable with that, and not again to give you cookies for that, but to remind me that that's man enough. Tell me something, rapid fire. Tell me something that you love about Anna Malaika.
Her smile.
Oh, that's sweet.
All right, Anna Malaika, tell us something you love about him.
There's just so many. I'm really bad at rapid fire.
You can do it.
Say his passion for social justice.
Oh, a physical trait.
No.
No. All right, Michael, tell us something that is a struggle for you about Anna Malaika.
Nothing.
No, I just got around to say, you know. I think people's greatest strengths could be their greatest weakness. So like, she's very direct, and that's great sometimes. And sometimes, to me, I experience it as not as great sometimes.
All right. How about you? What's a struggle that you experience about Michael?
I would say, and something that's come up in our relationship from the beginning, Mike is so energetic and wants to give his energy to so many people, but that so often means that by the end of the day, once he's done that for everyone else, he comes back and it's his less energetic version, which is fine. But I would love to see him be able to, I guess, share that passion and that energy with his family first and foremost. Like sometimes that is a struggle for me. Like I see him going out into the world and being able to do that. And then by the time we're at dinner, he's just sort of like tired and not quite there, which is fine. I want him to be able to also like let go of his need to kind of perform and be on all the time. But I struggle. I wish there was more of a balance sometimes.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing that. We oftentimes see the Instagram smiles of all of our families and stuff. And then to also like humanize us and like be like, oh, you know what? Even though they're a powerhouse couple, they got issues with each other too, but they work through it. They're together. And they're still glorious and wonderful. So thanks for sharing some.
And for everybody listening, if you didn't hear, they also go to therapy, which is
yes,
so important. I know we kind of glazed over it because you said you had a counselor, but
oh yeah, 100%. It's so important. Yeah, I mean,
so important.
From the beginning of our relationship, with all the stuff we were talking about with eyes on us and people really just like, it was just so much. And we realized we needed to carve out space where it was just us talking to someone, checking in with each other. I mean, when you think about it, Mike and I, from the ages of 19 and 21 to now 29 and 31, we've gone through a city council campaign, a an election for mayor. I was getting my master's and PhD. We've had 2 children. We've moved different places. All of this, had we not been able to have a space where we checked in with each other, could have been disastrous. And it's a reminder to us that, yeah, we're great on our own, but together we've been able to do such incredible things. And if our love is the place where all of this was engendered, then we really need to give that love the protection and the support that it deserves. So 100%, I think talking to a counselor is that space, and that's how you can protect.
And we just need to make sure that everybody can afford it. That's the next step.
Yeah.
I mean, good Lord. That should be a it's before you even, doctors, we should be able to see therapists. It should be, we got to normalize that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Rapid fire. Boom, boom, boom. Let's go.
All right. When's the last time you cried?
Oh, our therapy session last week.
I think I cried when your mom passed. But I was by myself in the guest house.
Yeah, my mom recently passed.
Last month.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
What is something you're afraid of?
Heights, dogs, closed spaces.
He has a lot of fears.
Closed spaces?
I'm very claustrophobic. Oh my gosh. If I feel trapped, it's not a good look for anyone. I'm like, open the door.
Closed
He locked
spaces.
himself once in a bathroom by accident in a restaurant, and he was freaking out.
Closed spaces. I thought you said closed faces, and I was like, wait,
No,
explain that one.
No, that's a weird fear. I'm like a weirdo. Like, weird. That's like no offense to closed face scaring people, but that's like,
All right, how about you?
What am I
what's something
afraid
you're
of?
afraid of?
like the dark.
I'm not that afraid of the dark. I am afraid
I'm afraid of the
if we like turn the lights off and Michael has left his closet door open. It really scares me. I don't know. I like imagine that somebody's like waiting in there. I don't like being in
Beetlejuice.
the house alone.
I'm with
either.
Beetlejuice.
That
All
kind of
right.
stuff.
Okay, you have a time machine. Both of you have a time machine. You get to go back to your younger self. Whisper something in your ear. What do you say?
I would probably say like all this hard work's gonna be worth it. Like you don't see it, but you have no idea what your life's about to be. Like just keep going.
I would say call your mom more once you've moved out of the house.
Yeah. Now you have a time machine, and you get to go 90 years, 70 years, whatever, into the future, and you get to be a guest at your own funeral. What do you hope they say about you and how you move through the world?
So I've thought about both these questions. That's why I'm like, let's go. I know you're gonna ask them. I'm in my closed spaces and having claustrophobic attacks. I think of these things. No, I want people to say that, like Dr. King, he talks about being like a drum. He doesn't want a long funeral. That when he dies, that's why people say I was a drum major for peace. I was a drum major for justice. I was a drum major for. So I want that. I want people to say like, he had a great life. He was an amazing husband, amazing father, and he was a drum major for peace, justice, equality, etc. Jesus was pleased with the work he did.
Oh, see, I don't think about these things often, so I would say that she showed us how we could celebrate our differences and come together. She did that with her work, with her mothering, and with a smile.
With a smile. Okay.
With a smile. Beautiful.
What does it mean to be man enough?
I would say it kind of goes back to something we talked about in this conversation, which is that it not be just like you want to do things so that you're celebrated, but because, it's the right thing to do, and that you are being a member of this team of humanity that I mentioned earlier, and you're doing your best to contribute to that, and not in comparison to anybody else, or without any other expectation other than you're bringing your part to this, you're doing your best, not for celebration, but to just be part of the team and to not feel the pressure of anything beyond that.
Yeah, I think it means just coming to an agreement or an understanding with yourself that you can always get better. About the core, you are enough. There's nothing about you that needs to be this or that. Like, who you are is enough, and that's why you're here. And kind of the job of this journey of life is to make who you are, to go deeper into knowing who you are or become the best version of yourself. But you're enough. Like, you don't need to be like this person. You don't need to be like that person. You don't need to. You, yourself, just who you are as a person is enough, and it's what we need.
And I would just add to, like, feel your full range of emotions. That is.
Are you adding to my answer?
Yeah, I thought that was a great answer, so I was adding to it. To yours.
This is marriage. This is it.
That's it right there.
You both had great answers, but together.
I thought the way I ended it was like good. I was like,
I love it because you just demonstrated earlier. You had said, "Yeah, I don't really like being told what to do, right?" And or any of that stuff. So like, here you are, and then now there's a comment, and we got to experience it right firsthand.
no, I was just. Was that caught? Was my answer not enough? That was
supporting you.
Yes,
I love it, and yes to all of it. You guys you're both incredible. Thank you so much for joining us. I can't wait to continue this conversation in person and get to know you both more.
We can't wait either.
You both are so much more than enough. We'll be right back. This is Man Enough. Hello and welcome back to Man Enough. I love them.
I love them.
I feel like we're all going to hang out sometime in the future.
Oh, we are.
It's coming.
It's coming.
Can I? I'm sure I don't need to clear it up, but I want to be clear. It was more of a rhetorical question, and a question that I was hoping was answered, which pretty much was, I am not advocating that we praise men or that we praise white men, because I had made a point about, this whole other this side. I'm speaking to something that comes up a lot, that some of our listeners and also white people in my experience of men who have a feeling when they hear about things. So I was more wanting to bring that up to see what our response is to those who feel that they're not acknowledged for what they do. And that was really my point in bringing it up. And I hope that was, conveyed versus me advocating for the fact that let's champion white men.
I think anybody who knows you, Jamie, knows you weren't suggesting we champion white men.
Not even just for me,
I hear you.
Just
That's the takeaway. But I liked the way she explained it, right? The difference between praise and gratitude, right? Which is, and even the way she defined masculinity at the end, that it should be about being told you're a great guy, right?
Yeah.
Which we've talked about, the whole good guy, bad guy binary actually holds all of us back. It's about doing something that feels intrinsically good and that's intrinsically good for your children, right? And doing it for that. Those kinds of rewards that aren't stickers or cookies or external, right? I think was a really good point that she brought up.
Yes, agreed.
I hope everybody continues to follow both of their work. Her next book sounds amazing. They're both so young.
So young.
I think I can see 20 years down the line a different career for her if she so chooses it. And what a power couple they are.
Yeah, I can see them in the White House.
I could. That's why I asked him. I'm like, what happens if there's no first husband or first lady because you're both the president and VP?
I see it.
Or we've changed the system by that time, and maybe it's co-presidents.
They're co-presidents,
Ooh,
right?
I like that.
I like that. But thank you all so much for listening. And if you like what you hear, please. Hey, where do they follow us, Jamie Heath?
Actually, I'm so glad you asked me that, because I really wanted them to do this. You can follow us at manenough.com/podcast. You can follow us on Spotify and Apple and all the places you get. And you can also watch us on YouTube. You can follow us on Liz Plank's TikTok because she's a TikTok expert and posts so many things. That's right.
Not enough.
Follow everything.
I'm sad we can't make TikToks I'll figure out a way. Especially doing TikToks remotely.
That's right.
I love a challenge.
We hope you have a beautiful day or night or whatever time it is that you're listening to this. And always remember that you are enough. I'm Justin Baldoni.
I'm Liz Plank.
I'm Jamie Heath.
And this is Man Enough.